This is the second video and second page of the 1-1A lesson. PEMDAS, or Order of Operations, PEMDAS specifically is an acronym used to represent proper order of operations. And the phrase stands for parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction. This list defines which operation takes precedence before other operations when simplifying expressions. In fact, if we do find this helpful, it's sort of like it is a 4-step process, which might take more steps, even though there are 6 letters. So that's already starting to get confusing. We start with parentheses or brackets, and we work through those. Then we deal with exponents. We'll primarily be skipping that for now. Then we're going to do multiplication and division from left to right, which means that if division shows up first as we read it from left to right like a book, we will do division first. And then we're going to do addition and subtraction from left to right as well, which means at times we might subtract before we add. And then if we think about add subtract for a minute and we understand sign changes, or we're really good with integers, it is possible to change subtraction to addition, and to sort of maybe somewhat break the rules here, but still get them correct. And it's okay to do that. That it's possible if we're very comfortable, confident in our integer rules. And let's say we choose to do sign changes, maybe we change all the subtraction to addition. And then we can kind of do things out of order, because commutative property of addition says it doesn't matter what order we add in. But for subtraction, order does matter. Okay, we're going to go down to number 7. I'm going to pick, there's 8 of these. I'm going to pick 4 of these to do. I'm going to go out of order. And then after I go over my 4 demo ones, I would suggest that you pause the video and try the other 4 to see how this is going. And I kind of handpick these based on what I think is best to show as a refresher, even though you have learned this. We're going to start with A, which is we're going through PEMDAS, no parentheses, no exponents, multiply and divide from left to right. You don't need to use like some sort of inverted caret, but I'm going to do it here just to emphasize where I am. And 10 times 2 is 20. And we'll bring down the subtraction sign. Or another way of thinking about this, which is equally as valid, this is negative 10 times 2, and a negative times a positive is a negative. All right, I'm going to bring this down, and whether you use this inverted caret or not, it doesn't matter, but your work should resemble like an upside down triangle, in that now I'm going to do doing only one step per line. So the next thing I'm going to do is now I'm going to add subtract from left to right. So let's suppose I don't do a sign change, then that would mean I need to start with subtract here, which is negative 4 plus 9 comes down. Notice every time I'm writing plus 9, I'm not just going to leave it up here, try to save myself time and energy and write it down here. Each step should mathematically check out with the previous one, and dropping off the 9 and then having it reappear is not correct. And then negative 4 plus 9, 9 is more dominant, or has a larger absolute value, which means that positive is going to win out, and the difference between these is 5. So positive 5. And again, hopefully you feel comfortable with integers. Maybe there was some other different way. Maybe you picture this with chips or algebra tiles, to convince yourself that that is 5. You should not be using a calculator for this. We're doing this by hand, but of course you can check it with a calculator. We're going to look at B next. When there's a number touching a bracket or parentheses, that implies multiplication. And we probably are aware of the distributive property, which is going to come up soon enough. But what we are going to do for this, it's frankly, even if you feel good about and confident in distributive property, it's best to just deal with this with PEMDAS, which is go inside and start here. 5 minus 3 is 2. Bring down everything else. Next, we're going to work inside these parentheses or brackets. 8 plus 2 is 10. I can write this as 2 bracket 10, or 2 with a times dot 10 and drop the brackets. It doesn't matter. And now I've done parentheses, no exponents. I'm on multiply and divide. 2 times 10 is 20, minus 8 is 12. You don't have to box your answer, but your answer should be at the bottom, and I am a fan of boxing it just personally. Then we're going to look at E. And again, I'm going to leave those other ones for you to try in a minute. Let's talk about a huge fraction line, which represents division. And this implies that with this problem, we're going to simplify the numerator and denominator on their own. We are not going to cancel things. That is forbidden. We're going to resist that temptation, and we'll cancel in the very last step when it is a standard fraction. So in the numerator, we're going to have 4 plus multiply and divide from left to right. That's important here. So we're going to start with 6 times 2, which is 12. And in the denominator, 2 times 2 is 4. The minus sign will come down, or you can think of it as negative 2 times positive 2, which is negative 4. If I start to go horizontal because I ran out of room, I'm going to separate this with an equal sign because I don't think I have enough room to make my vertical list of this. So I'm going to go horizontal and separate with equal signs. So I have 4 plus 12 divided by 3 is 4. I don't need parentheses there. And 14 minus 4 is 10. 4 plus 4 is 8 over 10, which simplifies down to 4/5. It's important to note here that this is in implied parentheses, even though they're not there, that you must first combine these prior to dividing or simplifying your fraction. And we're going to leave things, if they start as a fraction in the final answer, preferably not as a decimal. But the decimal version of this would be 0.8 or 8/10. Let's look at another one that involves fractions. We'll look at H, and then you'll try the other ones. H, we're going to scan the problem and look for multiply, divide. We see multiplication, and we see division, and they're separated by a minus sign. So we probably can start to tinker with both of these simultaneously. Okay, so this is going to be 4 over 1, and we're going to cross cancel these. 4 goes into 4 once and into 8 twice. So I've got a quarter plus 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. And then minus 2. And the rule for divide is multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to flip the second one. I'm also going to change this over 1. You don't have to do that, but it is easier to look at this. These are going to cancel. And I have a quarter plus a half minus, and this is 5. All right, and now we are going to add, subtract from left to right, unless you're doing the sign change. So a quarter plus a half is 3/4. We can also get a common denominator there, but that was kind of easy to do, minus 5 over 1. I'm going to get a common denominator here, 3/4 minus 20 over 4 gives me a grand total of negative 17 over 4. Negative 20 over 4 has a greater absolute value, or is more dominant. And the one's positive, one's negative. So we know we're going to find the difference, and we're going to put the sign of the one that's more dominant. Again, you might have had a different way of talking about this in 7th grade, but some way, hopefully you're getting a refresher of integer rules. Now we're going to go to the other problems. I would pause the video right now and try those. And when you're ready, you can double check and even kind of fast forward or slow down when I get to something that catches you off guard or you're not sure of or you need to correct it. We're going to scan this one and we're going to focus on these 2 steps, which have either multiplication or division. So we got 4 plus 3 plus 18 divided by 9 is 2 plus 40 divided by 5 is 8. And then we can add in any order we want because of commutative property. Or you can do it all at once in a simple step like this, or you could do it from left to right. Next one, letter D, 11 plus, inside the parentheses, 8 minus 2 is 6. And inside the parentheses, 1 plus 3 is 4. All right, now we're going to multiply and divide from left to right. So let's go slow through this, because if we do this too quick, this is a common error. In fact, this is maybe a problem. You need to identify for you what it is, but maybe there's a problem in here that you want to star, that you know that you're prone to errors with this. And I've seen a lot of errors with this. 6 times 8 is 48. I have not done anything with the 3 and the 4. 48 divided by 3 is 16. Bring down the 4. 16 times 4 is 64. Plus 11 is a grand total of 75. So you can see it's very tempting to multiply and then divide, but the rule was multiply and divide from left to right. 2 more problems. F. Again, I'm not going to bother distributing, because frankly, in a case like this, it's just easier to not do that and simplify and leave as a fraction. And the last one on this page, more with fractions. Multiply by the reciprocal. Cross cancel. All right, and this is a good time to also make note of, I will accept for full credit a mixed number or an improper fraction as long as they're simplified. Both are simplified. A couple other important notes, even if you got all these correct, hopefully you're listening to this last part, which is that we kind of prefer improper in most cases, but again, I'll accept either. And in an upcoming lesson, we are going to talk about clearing. Notice that I did not clear G and H. These were expressions. They did not have equal signs and were not equations. So unfortunately, I have to leave them as they are and just deal with the fractions. Also notice I did not change these fractions to decimals, because maybe I feel more comfortable with decimals. If they give me fractions, I'm going to deal with the fractions and leave them as they are and follow any fraction strategies that I learned in 7th grade or that we're refreshing currently in Module 1.